No, 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 no. Ho. Ease, good girl. Ho. No. Whoa. Hold down. Janana. Come back, Janana. This was such a mistake, and this so should have been prevented. I can't keep doing this. Where are you, Maverick? Come back. You don't need to run away. Look, do you hear that? Do you hear that? There's Janana. She's never come back before. You don't have to run anymore. You can trust us. You can trust us. I just don't understand why the whole herd can't be out with us today. Our home is so gorgeous. There's so much land here. I don't want them just to be in a paddock. You guys deserve so much more than being in a paddock. I'm gonna make it so we can all be out here together. We all should be out here together. That's where we're the most happiest.
Because again, my goal is to have the horses to be able to come and go as they want freely. My horses love to exercise and run like crazy, and they are constantly in motion. They never just stand still, to be honest. They're always on the move, kind of like me. They're always on the move. They go, you know. So giving them all this access keeps them happy. But again, I do have to minimize the exposure.
And the whole concept is essentially giving horses access to a natural horse paddock, in addition to our traditional horse paddocks, which you've seen already.
This looks like a movie set. It's just so gorgeous right here.
You are my best riding horse, Prince. Are you happy?
And then this part of the property is just so gorgeous. The water does look super clear. What are your thoughts on them drinking this? It's actually supposedly an estuary, so it is clear. But would you give your horses access to the natural creek, stream, whatever you want to call it? Or would you fence this part off too? Like, would you encapsulate the water so they don't use it as a drinking hole? But it looks like a movie set. It's gorgeous. This property is everything I've dreamed for in the last 20 years or more. But again, like, we do have these wet spots, which makes me a little hesitant to their feet and thrush, you know. And the hills are just the hills are super big. Like, check out these hills. It is steep. It's very steep. Here that gets steeper. I could cut this whole area off, and that minimizes quite a lot of the exposure. But then they're losing access to a big section of my property, which is not my goal. My goal is to give them access to as much as possible, right? I don't just want to cut big sections of my property off because I'm concerned that an area proposes a risk factor when maybe they're able to handle it. And I don't want to jinx it, but I've never had a horse get seriously hurt being turned out before. I've actually had a horse get seriously hurt being on stall rest. Maybe my risk tolerance of a horse paddock is much more greater than some, so maybe I'm being naive. And that's the conflict that I'm kind of having. Cost benefit, trade-off. So I'm setting the posts. We're in the process. We have a lot of work to do, but we're getting there. I just want to make the right decisions, because the worst thing I could do is have rework. Well, the worst thing would be an accident. Like, I'm still discovering all the old barbed wire. See this old barbed wire here? Like, this field used to have 50 horses, probably half a century ago, on the property. So I'm kind of restoring the property to its natural setting while still keeping my horses safe, Like, this is steeper than it looks, to be honest. And again, I do want to have the ride path behind the paddock, so it's still accessible if I'm not in the paddock, for friends, family that maybe not be as comfortable with horses like I am, Or maybe they just want to go on a hike or four-wheel ride. And then here, for example, but like look how much will be fenced in, both sides. I'm sure you've seen on the drone that I actually do have a power lines running across the property. At first I was kind of annoyed by the power lines, that they were just obstructing the property, but then I thought about it, and since I own property on both sides of the power lines, that means I have the right to use the power line area, and it adds like about 30 acres of land to my property, and I can fence it in. I can put horses in there, cows in there, I can grow hay in there. So it's 30 additional acres that I can use for my horse paddocks. I just have to make sure that we are putting the posts and the boards in the right position so it doesn't like become an annoyance for the horses or me. Look at the size of this tree. It's monstrously big, so there's no way I want to. There's actually barbed wire still in this tree, look. There's no way I'm gonna add to that. I don't want any trees getting hurt in the process. So I'm gonna put a stake like right in front of it, kind of like here. And the path continues this way. Post. It's a big project. This property is huge.
And this is not how the property looked when I first bought it. There were invasive thorny trees that I had to excavate, and apparently I discovered that the property was used as a body shop repair shop, and evidently there were cars dumped there. It took me an entire year to get comfortable with cleaning the paddocks to get the horses out in the big paddock, removing rubber tires, shards of glass, walking around with a metal detector for months just getting rid of all the metal. But now I feel comfortable and it was worth the wait. And I spent so much money on the 3-board fence. I would say the 3-board fence for this much land cost me close to $100,000. And that doesn't include the staining the wood just to make sure it preserves for all the years.
And again, we're gonna have the perimeter fence and natural paddock, and behind it is gonna be a 4-wheeler path. But there's a lot of these like steep hills and just uneven terrain. Like, I'm not sure how steep the hills are coming across on the camera, but they're very steep. But I think the horses will be okay on the majority of them.
But what do you think? Do you think your horses could handle hills like this? Is this like an everyday thing? So a horse that gets stalled throughout the day gets about 800 steps per day. And to me, that's wrong. Like, it feels so wrong to contain a horse to 800 steps per day. A horse in a standard rectangular paddock gets on average 4 times that amount. And by adding a 1-mile-ish track system to the paddock, your horse will then get around 3 miles per day on average. So that's a big improvement. If my natural paddock is successful, can you imagine how many miles per day my horse is going to get to travel? It's going to be the closest thing to they have in the wild. And my property accommodates this, so it just feels right to try to accommodate this. And again, my horses do have that traditional setting in like a large paddock. I just want it to be integrated to the forest so they can go back and forth. I just want my horses to be happy and kind of like choose their own schedule kind of thing.
During the day, they can kind of go on their own, adventures and trails in a herd, which is what I'm all about, the herd, you know that by now.
But one thing that you may not know about me.
Yeah, so I actually moved here from England, and it's been my dream to have a horse farm one day. So it's been 20 years in the making, and it's been so worth it. I moved from London to a country town in Florida, and then I went to university for accountancy. I got my accounting degree, was kind of in the corporate hamster wheel for a while, met some really good people, and then in 2024, this year, I decided that I was going to take some time off just to kind of work with my horses and work on my farm. And again, I bought my farm in 2022, and it's been an ongoing project since. Look at this water stream. How pretty is this? water's actually kind of low right now. It's been a super hot summer. Heat advisories like crazy. This is the first time since I bought the property that I've probably seen 80% of the property lines, because the property is just so big. So I do want to utilize the space correctly. And then maybe once I get more comfortable, I could then expand and add a whole nother zone area for the horses. But then it's going to be rework because I'm picking up O posts, which is okay. I mean, the horses have to come first, right? Like, I have to get this right. But I don't just want to be overly, helicopter dad too protective either, at the price of them not getting to explore.
As many of you may have guessed by now, this is my first horse farm. This is my first herd. Many of you have told me, trust your intuition, you're doing such a good job. And I do believe that. I know that the natural paddocks that I'm creating will be controversial. They're totally different to the norm. But I just know that my herd is gonna love to reconnect to the earth, to the land, and roam around and just have the freedom that our horses have had for centuries. And I'm gonna be there to document every step of the way, but this is a major journey for us, and I'm ecstatic about this.